Today I'm bringing you a watercolor birthday card. My friend's daughter Rose is turning 1 and I was inspired by both her name and her age to make this card. So here I am drawing a big block letter number 1, and I really like to do this kind of technique for birthdays. It's an easy personal touch to somebody's age. You can see I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to adjust it and get it right until I'm happy with the size and shape of my number. And then I'm going to fill it in with some plain, fresh, clean water. And the trick to this technique is to wet your paper, but you don't want puddles. You just want a general sheen of water in the area you're going to be painting. This technique is called wet on wet. So what we're going to do is create wet paper, and then in a moment we're going to take some colors and drop them in to the wetness, and that is going to help the colors blend and spread on your project. And for this project I'm choosing some just 3 colors. So I've got some pink, some blue, and some yellow, so those are in the primary line. I chose some dustier colors to keep it from being too bright in primary. I wanted something softer and prettier. So you can see I'm just dropping in the colors and coming up to the edges of those pencil lines. It's easier if you don't go over the pencil lines because we're going to erase those later. And if you've got paint over the top of your pencil, it's a little bit harder. It doesn't ruin the project, it's just a little bit harder to erase them. So then I'm coming in with a little bit of just plain water, and I'm trying to blend and spread my colors all the way up to the edges, kind of smoothing out any places that seem a little too harsh to me. And then I'm satisfied with that, so I'm going to add some texture by splashing drips. And what that does, wherever the clean water hits, it's going to push the color out a little bit. So here I'm back with a finished and dried number 1. You might notice that this is not the same number that I painted before. I actually had my project go awry and I started again. That's okay, mistakes happen. Just keep going. So I'm starting to do some squiggly flowers. I am not the best watercolor artist. I am not an expert at flowers. I just squiggle some color on and we get the impression of flowers. And I'm satisfied with that. Like I said, my last project went wrong, and it actually went wrong with the flowers. And so if you're not satisfied, it's just paper. You can recycle it. You can start again. Don't worry about it. So I'm continuing to add flowers. I'm kind of doing a diagonal design here with a bigger floral up in the top right corner, and then a smaller floral tucked in over here in the bottom right corner. And one of the tricks I do know about flowers is if you start with a bolder color in the center and then work out to softer colors towards the outside, that kind of gives you an impression of softer petals. And then I'm mixing up, using those same colors, I am mixing a third color and getting this green. And that's one of the watercolor tips, is to use the colors you've already got on your project to create more colors. And so I'm using these green leaves and I'm dropping in a little bit of extra color. And you can see here where my watercolors touched, it tended to bleed in together because it wasn't dry. I tried flooding it with some extra pink to push that green back out and didn't quite work. So I just dabbed it off, and then I'm going to fix it with a little bit of adding a little bit more soft pink in there to kind of fix that where the green came in. And that worked just fine. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So the other thing about watercolor is if you add more layers of color to things, it actually makes them look less flat. So I'm adding a little bit of blue onto my green leaves. Earlier I dropped in some yellow into the green leaves, and I'll be doing that again here in a minute. And I'm not worried about, when I'm mixing up my green color, I'm not worried about it being perfectly matching with the previous green that I mixed. It's no big deal. As I'm working with my leaves, I'm using the rule of 3s, where if you place things into groupings of 3, that's kind of visually pleasing. And then here is that yellow coming in again. And I'm looking at it and trying to decide and adjust, and I do want to add some more blue up here like I did to the leaves down below, just to add a dimension of color to the project. And I check it out, and I think about it, and I think I'm done. So I will finish up this part and give it a dry. And then here I took some micron markers and just outlined the number to make the number stand out and bring it to the foreground a bit more. Hope you enjoyed this project. I'll see you next time.